Welcome to the Winners Find a Way show and podcast with your host, Trent M. Clark, three-time World Series coach, CEO of Leadershipity, serial entrepreneur, having started 12 companies, coach to the 1%, and an international speaker. This show is going to be your go-to podcast for facing adversity, being inspired, and overcoming obstacles, all from the best in the world, business, sports, and leadership. Hate the crappy ingredients in many beverages and energy drinks? Rebellious Infusions are the go-to functional beverage. They have 5 or fewer plant-based organic ingredients, no sugar, no calories, loaded with antioxidants to boost your immune system, and L-theanine for brain health. Rebellious Infusions are available at drinkrebellious.com. Rethink your drink. For 10% off of your next purchase, use the code 99999.
Hello, welcome to the Winners Find a Way show. I'm your host, Trent Clark, CEO of Leadershipity, serial entrepreneur, international speaker, longtime coach in professional baseball, coaching in 3 World Series. And I welcome today my friend, Dave Young. Dave, how are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me here, man.
Man, I'm excited to have you. This has been, we were introduced by a fellow friend, Justin Breen, and Dave has been through the coaching ringer. Is a coach himself, so it always is fun for me to interact with fellow coaches because there's just so many ideas I gather, and I love those nuggets. We talked a little bit about that pre-show, about those nuggets. Dave, first tell them, but we're going to talk about Builder Nuggets, of course, your show, but I want to first, Dave, tell them where they can find you.
Okay, so our website is buildernuggets.com, or you can go on Instagram, Builder Nuggets. Really easy to find. And it's in, we've had people tell us you should have called your show Business Nuggets because we have people outside of the, it's a show for custom home builders and remodelers, but we have people tell us all the time that it really applies to any business. So if you have listeners out there that are in other businesses or disciplines, there's value there as well. It's really elements that you should have in your business to create a more rewarding business, no matter what it is, and help you create freedom for yourself through the opportunities that you create for others.
I love it, man. After my own heart right there. So let's talk about longtime entrepreneur, primarily in the real estate space, right? You've been this co-host of the Builder Nugget podcast with Dwayne Johns. Are you also in business with Dwayne?
Yeah, so Dwayne is my business partner as well. And you're right. I started out, I knew early on that I had a passion for real estate. My parents had started acquiring rental properties when I was maybe 12 or 13 years old. And my dad explained to me how that all worked. And it just triggered. And so I I'm still a real estate investor today with the multi-residential properties in Canada and the Bahamas, and some investments in the US. But, when you're doing background investment, you're also looking at other opportunities to pursue. So I had a real estate career, and then I got involved in some real estate technology. And I was minding my own business one day in 2013 when somebody called me out of the blue, somebody that I knew from a different business venture, and said, "Hey, I have to tell you about this franchise opportunity. I've never seen anything like it. I've been selling franchises for 20 years. This thing is the best ever." And, was going on about it. And I said, "Okay, what is it?" And he says, "It's a custom home building franchise." And I said, "Dude, I'm out. I'm not a builder. The joke in my house is the best tool in the toolbox is the checkbook. I'm just not wired like that, but I love business." And he told me a little bit about the concept and said, "Would you just meet with the CEO? Agree to a 30-minute with the CEO to just hear his vision of where he thought he could take the custom home building space." And I said, sure, why not? When somebody said 30 minutes, and it was kind of intriguing. And so I booked, I had a 30-minute call with Blair McDaniel, who is the founder of Alair Homes. And it's based out of Nanaimo, BC in Canada. And that 30-minute call went 2 hours and 45 minutes. And in that one call, I decided this was my next venture. This is what I was going to do next, because it was a young guy's vision. And it helped that he had a multi-residential background as well, but he was he noticed that the construction industry, there's hundreds of thousands of builders across North America, all using different business models, all very fractured. And the industry was being commoditized. And he noticed that every other industry, every other sector had gone through some form of consolidation where the best of the best would get together and they would share services, they would share resources, they would share expertise, and they would work together and come in and collaborate either under the same umbrella or in some particular way, create this mastermind. And then that would create a level of accountability that wasn't there before. And I was just so intrigued by the opportunity to, what some people today call, disrupting the industry. I saw it as an opportunity to harmonize the industry, to take people who are already very, very good at what they were doing, make them better, and give them the opportunity to create more freedom in their business, create more rewarding businesses. Because most of these custom home builders and remodelers, they can't sell their businesses at the end. It's a shame. They shut them down. They don't have a lot of residual value. You don't have other people who want to buy them. So for the last 9 years, I've been doing that. A few years in, I had the opportunity to move from my role as a regional partner in Ontario and then Manitoba to go and open up a lair in North Carolina and South Carolina. And that's when I met Dwayne. So we've been collaborating there ever since. He's been a great business partner. And last year, we decided, we're going to take these nuggets, what we've learned working with, collaborating with hundreds of builders and experts and specialists, and create the podcast to just share it with the rest of the industry. And what we found was that, we were expecting to go out and share it. Once we started doing that and putting ourselves out there, and that was scary too. I mean, it was scary to become a builder when I wasn't one. And then it was also scary to, start a podcast when I wasn't one. And quickly realized is as soon as you start to give, as soon as you develop a mindset of abundance where you're willing to share what you learn, it becomes such a powerful magnet. And other top people in the industry from all different types of different business models and all over North America, we began to collaborate with them as well outside of Alair. So the podcast is completely, brand agnostic. It's Builder Nuggets. It's designed to help any business owner input the elements that they need to have a more successful business that creates more freedom for their team, more freedom for themselves, and just elevate the entire industry. So that's how I got to where I am now, and excited to share some of what I've learned and hear your take on some of this stuff.
I love that. Yeah, that's awesome. Very cool. I mean, I think there's a lot of, we see this in business, right? There's a lot of great knowledge, there's a lot of great careers, there's a lot of great impact from service people, especially. And I'd almost say customer builders are almost a service, right? I build this for you, and your clients are great as long as you have new ones waiting, right, for more of your service. And so all of a sudden, like, hey, how do I retire? Because I'm going to stop going out and getting business. Like, so I don't want to buy your service because it always needed you, and so it's this, man, it's not the greatest business model. I learned this as a young man when I started a private training business, and all the athletes were calling me saying, hey, Trent, I want to work out with you, and this is great. And then I realized they didn't want to work out with Trisha or Stevie or Diana or Bob, or, it was like, wait a minute, I want Trent. And like, that's it. And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm only got so many hours in a day. How do I scale this thing? Like, and all of a sudden it's like, I got to do something different in a different way and build this another direction. And obviously there's been a lot of models to follow that have done that very well in the coaching business and things like that, which has been good. But why don't tell us a little bit something, Dave, that most people don't know about you.
Oh, well, it's a little bit of a funny story. A couple things come to mind. I'm a dad, married 3 daughters, but when my girls were really young, I remember one spring we were going to go, my wife and I decided, we were going to surprise them and take them to, there's an attraction near here called, I'm just north of Toronto, called African Lion Safari. And it was just opening up for the spring. And I told my wife, hey, we're going to get the girls up early and take them to African Lion Safari, keep it a surprise. They ran into my room in the morning and said, Dad, you got to get up. It's time to go. And I'm like, oh, do you know about the surprise? And they said, no, the surprise is on you. And I'm like, well, what are you talking about? And they said, we're not going to African Lion Safari. So at the time, I had some friends that were in MA and would train with them once in a while just for fun. And they heard that George St. Pierre was coming to town and doing a clinic in a local venue that was very close to us. And they said, Dad, you're going to fight with George St. Pierre today. I said, well, I don't think I'm going to fight with him. Like, what's going on? And they said, no, he's doing this clinic. We got you a spot. And I got to go and participate in that. And sure enough, the first exercise or the first demonstration, I'm the guy who gets centered out and pulled out. George, who's an awesome guy, like great leader, so charismatic, pulls me up and he's doing a demonstration about striking and saying that whenever you're practicing, even if it is, just a demonstration, there always has to be touch so that you get the range sensitivity. And he's very precise about everything that he does. So he says, this is what I mean. When you're throwing a punch, you always have to hit. And so he said, okay, I'm going to demonstrate on you, Dave. Grab me, punch me in the chin. Not very hard, thankfully, but there's a little nugget there that not many people know, that I've actually been punched in the face by George St. Pierre. And then picked on me again. Well, not picked on me, but brought me out again for another exercise with my partner, demonstrating the proper way to choke somebody out. So I've actually put GSP in a chokehold, and then I had to demonstrate on my partner how to do it. He actually took over and sank it in until the guy tapped. So a little bit of fun there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's like, listen, not everyone can say they've been punched in the face by GSP, right? And actually live to tell about it, actually, and still have their teeth, which is nice. You have good teeth still, and learn an arm bar, from GSP, right? Like that's pretty sweet.
Well, I don't have the good teeth. I got the hockey teeth, buddy. So
nice.
Teeth were already long gone for that one. But it's hardly a punch. It was more of a tap, but it's a way better story when you can say that, you had that time with George St. Pierre.
Nice.
But I took away a few things from him, like his positivity, his attitude, his willingness to share things, his patience with people. Those are hallmarks of a very good leader. One of the things I remember most is, at the time, there was a lot of talk about what was the best base for MMA. And people would have arguments whether it was jiu-jitsu or wrestling or boxing or karate or whatever it may be. And somebody asked him that question, and his answer was, the best base for MMA or for any sport is gymnastics. And he talked about how valuable it was to train your entire body before you dig into any specific discipline, and mindset as well. And this from working with top athletes. While you will develop a specialty, the best athletes have a well-rounded approach to things, and it always starts with their mindset. And winners just have that other gear when it comes to mindset.
I love the example of gymnastics because there's so much there, right? Like, first of all, we've all watched the Olympics. We've all watched the college athletics. And by the way, most of us are in admiration of the bodies that come out of the gymnast, right? They are just in incredible shape. I have a daughter that competed at a high level. She's now 15 and she's done at 15, right? Like, she competed already at a high level and she's like moving on to other sports. And I watched the transfer because of spatial awareness, lower body, stability and control, and the mindset of competing and being, hey, I've got one shot at this, and knowing, hey, this is my time and I've got to be prepared for this one moment. And there is so much power in that there's a few sports that just really cross over. And so I love that George said that. I think it is a huge one. And there's a couple other ones. Like I talk to, children and parents about, I don't see great athletes that don't have good feet.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have good feet, and you probably know this from your hockey days, right? Like, you could see players have great shot from the point, and, hey, we can't put you out if you get beat back, if you can't get back into position, you can't maintain the blue line, all these things that we need you to do, and it involves your feet. And so that we love that you can rocket the puck 105 miles an hour. The problem is we can never get you open actually to shoot that shot. So
exactly. Yeah. And what that does, that agility, the combination of agility and speed and everything like that, it gives you options, right? And that's really what you're looking for in your business as well. So when GSP is talking about that, the ability for your body to move and to be agile in different ways, to be strong in several different ways, very similar to the approach you want to take to anything you do. And, there's, with anything you want to be world-class at, comes with training, focus, dedication, all that sort of thing. But for business owners, when I think about, like, what's the gymnastics for a business owner, I would say it's probably reading, like learning, or, if it's not reading, it's listening to audiobooks and developing, your ability to communicate, because your job is really about creating opportunity for others. If you're a leader, to create a culture, and by immersing yourself, learning other strategies, baking that into what you're doing, that's really the mental gymnastics. And communication is such a huge part of that. Seeing how other authors or other storytellers communicate their ideas and their stories, which is really what you want to do, is be able to create your own stories and to get your point across. That really, to me, is the foundation that you need to do that. And would encourage everybody, if you're not, I mean, listening to podcasts is great, it's awesome, but spending a little bit of time every day to read, develop, work on your game, that's the gymnastics base for any business.
Yeah, I think that's such a good point. We always talk about leadership. Leaders are learners, and
Yes.
when I think
That was
about
the title of one of your podcasts.
that's right, yeah, right,
Yes, yeah.
and yeah, and I think that I would even take that one step further. That the foundation of being a good reader and learner, and you can do it audio, however you take in information. The other step for me is being able to transfer that information to an executable strategy. Even not everything, like even just taking like one of those great builder nuggets that you provide in your show. If I'm in the real estate business and saying, hey, if I implemented that information into my agreements going forward, because I learned that from Dave and Dwayne, and now I want to do that better. And I've learned it. Now I've got to implement it and execute that to make it have more impact in my business, in my work. That to me is really the secret sauce to really quote unquote learning, because we don't always learn by just reading. We have to learn by doing a lot of times.
Sure. And in the other thing that it's a key point, a part of what you made, is actually taking action on it. So it's not just delusional. It's not just fantasy. That there's actual real outcome. And the more you've read, the more exposure you've had to this, the more creative ways you have, or that you can see and anticipate or strategize around putting in, and all to be able to communicate the idea, because not everybody absorbs information the same way. And if you have multiple ways of telling a story, and you're not just telling it or imparting the knowledge in the way that you feel good telling it, that you understand your audience and your recipient because you've asked them good questions, or you understand their communication style, you can tell the story with brevity, or you can tell it with more details, like whatever that may be. Understanding your audience and who you're working with is a huge part of that. But it expands your whole realm of capabilities. And people will say all the time, oh, I don't really like to read, or I don't have time to. But you start to develop some of this stuff, you take away these nuggets, you would be surprised at how fast you can accelerate and elevate yourself. And I mentioned it earlier, it's your key role if you're the leader of a company, is to create that opportunity, for other people, provide vision, provide meaningful things for them to work on. You have to work on yourself in order to be able to do that. And you're a big believer in that as a coach. You've seen that with other professional athletes. So investing, we talk on our show a lot about investing in your team. You also have to make investments in yourself, and sometimes they're uncomfortable. Like, it was uncomfortable for me to become a builder. It was uncomfortable for me to launch out into the podcast. But these are the ways that you grow, and it helps to define your culture. It helps you to create a better vision and mission that other people are excited to get behind. It's not just something you made up. It's factual and well founded and well communicated.
I love that. I'm going to make a little plug here for a brand that I refer quite a bit. I'm an entrepreneur organization member. We just signed an agreement this year with Blinkist, and I have been a fan of Blinkist for about the last 3 or 4 years. Blinkist is reading or Audible books in 15 minutes. And I have thoroughly enjoyed really grabbing the nuggets out of the books in 15 minutes. I love Good to Great, but I don't know if I need Collins, all his anecdotal stories. I got a lot of my own, as many people will attest. But, when I want that data, I want that information, and like, hey, how do I apply that? And, I'm also an avid Audible reader as a guy who gets too much windshield time. So, daddy Uber that I got going on. So when I do that, as I listen, there's often times when I am at 1.5 or 2x listening speed, I can take a 30-minute drive and listen to a book 3 times. And then I pull that in, and that information I highlight the key information that I really want to take away, and it automatically syncs to my Evernote account. So it's one of the
Wow.
greatest things I found about pulling nuggets down about what's really important, and then honing in on that real key element to move forward. Like, I got a couple questions. So that's great,
Okay.
great talk about learning. For those who are joining Winners Find a Way for the first time, let me tell you a little bit about the show. Have you ever faced stiff adversity, felt like the losses are mounting, and you need to find a better way? Well, you came to the right place. Whether you are already an entrepreneur, athlete, business leader, just looking to start your journey to being elite, I think this is the perfect podcast for you. I bring on one percenters who talk about those challenges, things they've overcome on their way to being the best in their industry, their best in their organization, their sport, whatever they're doing. So I'm thrilled to have Dave talk a little bit about this, because we've got so many things here, Dave, to talk about. It's fun. And I know you got a desire for leadership, and you talk about that, really that commitment. One of the things, why don't you talk a little bit about, real quick, of what you think your real role of leaders really is? What do you believe in your heart of hearts that role of leaders actually is inside an organization?
It's pretty easy. I use the word a lot. It's elevate. It's to elevate the rest of the team, to elevate each other and create a culture of elevation. And when you're able to do that, when you're able to make investments in other people, because when you look at it, you're asking people to trade their time for money, and their time is the most valuable. Our time is the most valuable thing to us. It's also the most valuable thing to them. So they're actually making an investment in you and your mission and your company. And so if you're going to ask them to do that, it's incumbent upon you to make sure that you are making the right investments back in them. And if that investment is just money or a better company car, then you're a commodity. You're going to be seen as a commodity. There's nothing engaging there to help them, to elevate them, aside from maybe their financial status. But when you look at the different elements of freedom that anybody wants to have, it's obviously the freedom of money is a huge one, but they want to have freedom of purpose, they want to have freedom of time, and they want to have freedom of relationships. That is a big takeaway for me from a book called Who Not How by Ben Hardy and Dan Sullivan. Amazing book. It's probably one of the ones that's had the most impact on me. It's the reason why I joined Strategic Coach after reading that. But they talk about those 4 freedoms. And when business owners or employees may look at a business owner or a leader and think that everything, if they feel that everything that's being done is for them, is for that leader, like we talked in the pre-show here about, the really rich company owner, that everybody else is making the contribution. If you're not making an investment back into them, if you're not growing the team or adding resources or understanding what they need to thrive in their business and creating opportunity for them, then you're just a commodity. And in this marketplace where there's more jobs than there are people, especially in the construction industry, but probably in just about every industry, what's keeping that person from leaving your team to go to another team? If it's money, then it will always be money. It's hard, like they'll just go. And you've seen this too in professional sports teams, the top athletes who stay with the team that they want to be with instead of taking more money going somewhere else. So that strategy of elevation, making good investments in your people, creating meaningful opportunities for them, having a clear mission and vision that they get to have, weigh in on, in developing the core values of the company, all that sort of thing. Those are key. And if you can do that, you create an environment where it's not that they don't want to leave their role, but if you can, create an opportunity where they don't want to leave each other, that's pretty amazing. And you've seen that too with teams where it's like the chemistry is there. And once that happens, you're creating more financial freedom for everybody. You're creating more financial freedom for yourself as a business owner. Everything is more plentiful. You can make new investments, and those investments don't always have to be, like I said, a better cell phone plan or car allowance or financial. It can be, hey, we're giving you, more vacation time, and here's a leadership training course that we think that you would like, or we're doing these special things with you, corporate retreats. And we talked about that, like the coaching events that you go to where it's like off-site, something fun, something engaging. Those are the things that bring humans together, but like that campfire mindset where, you're all sitting around there together and, you're cooking together, eating together, doing things together, way different environment. And that's tough to get in a lot of companies. And the bigger the company is, the harder it is to maintain that, because it just gets unwieldy unless you have that culture. So usually the culture wanes, and then the big companies start to fall apart. So it comes down to elevating people. If you elevate others, you will be elevated as well.
Hate the crappy ingredients in many beverages and energy drinks? Rebellious Infusions are the go-to functional beverage. They have 5 or fewer plant-based organic ingredients, no sugar, no calories, loaded with antioxidants to boost your immune system, and L-theanine for brain health. Rebellious Infusions are available at drinkrebellious.com. Rethink your drink. For 10% off of your next purchase, use the code 99999. Thank you for listening to the Winners Find a Way show and podcast. Trent, together with the leaders who shared their learning and experiences through this show, are grateful for allowing them to help and support you on your journey to becoming your best. Write a review, rate us 5 stars, and share this episode to your network.